Hello friends, it's Sarah from Sweet Scents from the Dollhouse. If you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome. If you're a returning waxy, as always, welcome back. I apologize if I'm wearing the same outfit in a bunch of videos. I was trying to film a boatload of videos before I get busy for the rest of the week. But in between videos, I just got the most random email from my mom. She's like, Glenn from Kia called and your car's fixed. That's the good news. The bad news is Gus has cancer. And she pisses off back to work and doesn't answer any of my questions. I'm like, oh, mother. I don't know if that's like inherent of Parkinson's, but she's doing that a lot lately. Like, unfinished conversations or just dropping bombs and fucking off. You know what I mean? Like, all right, that's something you could have waited to tell me after work when you had more time to talk. And I sure have a lot of questions. Gus is our family dog. And the whole history of how he became a family dog was he was my dog. When my girls were very small, I wanted my children to grow up with the dog. I always did, but I was married to a tyrant of a man who hates animals, like through and through. He had the makings of a serial killer. So I knew, for the dog and everyone else's sake, that if we were going to get a dog, he had to be perfect. So I hired the best of the best dog trainer in our area. Gus went to live with her for a month. And when he came back, I'm telling you, like, I have never in my life, even as a puppy, known a better behaved dog. Like, he would never bark. You never had to put him on a leash. Obviously, I always did, just for safety reasons, but you didn't have to. Like, if you stopped, he'd stop and sit. Everything was by command, by hand gestures. You didn't even have to talk, and he would know what you wanted. And I don't at all take responsibility or pride in training that dog. I had nothing to do with it. I paid good money to have him trained like that. He was phenomenal because I knew that was the only way my husband would have it. Like, a puppy having accidents in our brand new house? Oh, no. It just wouldn't happen. So he went away for 4 weeks and he came back fully trained, potty trained, you name it. He was amazing. And then, of course, my love for the dog outlasted the asshole. So during my divorce, I had to downsize and move into an apartment, cheaper, save money to buy a house on my own. So we moved into the third story of an apartment building. And I don't know if it was something about the acoustics and the stairwells, or he knew that he was that high. I have no idea what it was, but this was a dog that never barked out of turn. Like, he was trained to bark once to alert you to something, but that was it. He would bark and bark and bark and bark nonstop once we moved into this apartment building. And I was beside myself. I said to my parents, what the hell am I going to do? I can't be the new neighbor with the yippy dog. Like, Gus is not a yippy dog. It must just be the apartment building. And I tried to give it time. 2 months, 3 months, I was getting noise complaints on the regular. I couldn't leave to go to work without my neighbors just being up in arms because he was that irritating. So I said to my parents, like, I don't plan on living in this hellhole forever. Please take Gus so I don't have to rehome him permanently. Take him for a short while. So I was in that apartment building for 2 years, saving money. And in those 2 years, our family dog, Fred, who was a mixture of Dalmatian Pit Bull, another amazing dog, he got old and died of natural causes. So Fred and my dad were the best of friends, and then my dog, Gus, was staying there when my dad lost his best friend. So flash forward to 2 years later, I'm ready to buy a house, but I'm also traveling a lot for work, and it just didn't seem fair after my dad and Gus had now established that very strong connection for me to rip Gus out of their home and then dump him there for 4 months when I went to work out west and then pick him up. And then That's just, my dad used to say it's mean to have a dog living in an apartment. I don't think it's mean. Tons of people have small breed dogs living in apartments, even large breed dogs. It's only mean if the owner isn't diligent in walking and exercising and stimulation and stuff. What I think is mean would have been me ripping Gus in and out of their life. So it sucked moving to our little dream house without a family member, but it was for the greater good. So that's why Gus lives at my parents' house. And now we have Fester and a cat, and he's not particularly fond of either one of my hairless freak shows. So it all worked out. It's all been fine and dandy, but obviously I take a very keen interest in Gus's health. And for the past 6 months, both of his eyes have just been secreting this disgusting, nasty crap. And I'm not all in all fond of vets. I find, if you find a good vet, hang on to them because, just like any other profession, there's good ones, there's bad ones, there's shysters out there, there's genuine ones, I'm sure. But I was starting to think, is this vet taking my parents for a ride? Because I usually stop at my parents' house minimum once a week. And it seemed like every week my dad was taking Gus in, and every week he was getting a new antibiotic, a new steroid, a new this, a new that to put in the dog's eyes. And I'm like, holy shit, enough's enough. This is going on 4.5, 5 months of this, Dad. Clearly none of the meds, and I'm talking, he had, those cupcake size container Tupperware bins? He had one of those full of unused, partially used different meds. And they were all to the tune of $40, $75, $110 a pop. I said to my dad, this vet is taking you for a ride. There is such thing as an animal ophthalmologist. How do I know? Because Ella's dad is a human ophthalmologist. And I'm not saying that I'm an eye specialist by any means, but hanging out with an eye surgeon for as long as I did, I started to know a thing or two. And the eye is a very complex organ, but there's only so many things that can be wrong. Pretty easy to diagnose things just by looking in the eye. So I said to my dad, tell your crappy vet, enough's enough with the meds, give you a referral to the local animal ophthalmologist who just so happens to be out my way. It will cost you an arm and a leg, but what you're spending on meds already, and it's not fixing the issue, let's get it done and over with. So my dad had the appointment, and I told my dad, I'll go with you. For some reason, my parents are just old school, so they would never think to question a professional, or they would think that it could be perceived as rude to question somebody who's, obviously supposed to be a professional. I don't give a shit. I'll go in there and say it how it is. Enough's enough. Doctor experimentation is not working. So put us in touch with somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. So as we were waiting for this appointment to come up, a matter of 8 days, all of a sudden, Gus's left eye, completely filmed over and turned green. And obviously the pus before always had a slight tinge of an odor to it. This eye was clearly dead in the socket. It stunk to high hell, looked hideous, so they rushed him in right away, and they booked him an appointment to remove the eye. And as they're going in, I said to my dad, if I need to come and tell the vet, take that eye out, but again, still need to see the specialist because the second eye is still doing it, so be it. I'll come with you and tell this vet how it is. So the removal of his eye went fine, but he said there's fibrous tissue or tumor-like buildup behind the eye in the socket when we removed his eye. The vet assured us that it was very common in older dogs. If you've ever pet a really old dog, they get those buildup of tissue. That's what they sent it away to the lab to determine if it was one of those you know what I'm talking about when you pet the back of the neck of a really old dog. They get these like fibrous goiters. He had one of those in the back of his head. The vet says, more likely than not, it's because he's an old dog that he has one of these. He's 15. Or it could be cancer, but let's just rule it out. So apparently the test came back today and it is cancer. So that's unfortunate. But my dad's a big suck when it comes to these kind of things. So I'm going to go to the follow-up appointment with my father and go at it for, I'll be the realistic voice in the room where my dad thinks more with his heart and he has great intentions, but he doesn't realize that leaving Gus to suffer would be selfish, you know, because of course my dad wants more time with him. They've developed like the best of buddies, but if Gus is in fact in pain, then I don't think it's very nice of us to let him continue on living like this, right? It's got to be painful. It has to be. So that's what has happening at the Dollhouse lately, but we'll see. What else? Oh, more importantly, that's why I'm doing this video. Today's Wednesday, Wax Wars. You know what that means. This week I have been working on a melt-off of Love Spell dupes. So I was surprised to find 4 in my stash. Not in the mood. Ella, go watch Paw Patrol, honey. Mommy will be right there. Mom. Okay, so the first one is Super Tarts. These are sold in the great old US of A. They do ship to Canada, and the price point on them is $4.25 American. I just put 1 cube of Super Tarts Mary Jane Watson in an 18-watt hot plate warmer. This is not just straight Love Spell. It's pink sugar mixed with Love Spell. Oh, and I guess I should, I know from my waxies I shouldn't, I know I don't have to, but let's do this in case someone isn't clear. Love Spell is actually a fragrance from the Victoria's Secret Secret Garden collection. It's a combination of peach, cherry, and white jasmine. Really, really, really nice. Rather popular as far as fragrances are concerned, as well as it translates awesome into home fragrance. So this is a blend of pink sugar and Love Spell. I'm sure it's a 50-50. But to my nose, I get more Love Spell from Mary Jane Watson than I do pink sugar. And it's a true Love Spell dupe. Like, perfect Love Spell dupe. Made a little bit sweeter, obviously, by the pink sugar, but it was awesome. 1 cube in a super hot plate warmer lasted 22.5 hours. I loved this. It had a steady 10 to 12 foot throw for the first 19.5 hours, and then it shrank quickly, but it still had a 2 foot throw at the 22-hour mark. I took it out at the 22-hour mark because at 2 feet, I don't make a habit of sitting that close to my warmers. So at that point, for me, it's done. I would highly recommend to anyone who hasn't tried Super Tarts or who has been hesitant to try Super Tarts because this wax is super powerful. If you're not into some of the crazy blends that you find on that website, or you're a little hesitant because this packs so much punch, Mary Jane Watson would be a perfect scent to start. Because I found this, so far, out of everything I've worn from Super Tarts, has a light to medium scent, where most of Brandy's blends are high to knock you on your ass scent. So this was really, really nice. I'm not sure that I would purchase this one in large quantities, but I'm really happy to have this in my collection. Hang tight for 2 seconds. Sorry about that little turkey. So the second one, the number 2 spot really surprised me. Believe it or not, it was Sensationals. It's not a perfect love spell dupe, but I was pretty impressed considering it's sensationals. Usually in the past, you can find sensational gems. They're out there. But to my nose anyways, I find a lot of sensational scents to be very one-dimensional or not very authentic or true to what they're supposed to be. This one was a pleasant surprise. I'm not sure if this one has ever been available in Canada. From time to time, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to it, we do get a chance to buy these clamshells at Walmart. Most recent time that I can think of was just before Christmas. I don't know what it is, like if it's an excess of certain scents that they don't sell in the States, they ship up here to clear out at a discounted rate. But usually a Sensationals clamshell in Canada is $3.48. Once in a blue moon, on like the end caps or in a bin, you can find Blowout Sensationals for as low as $1.88 Canadian, which is a steal. And if they have this made in Canada stamp down here, scoop them up, because you don't know if they'll ever be available in Canada again. This one I purchased in the States. $2 American is what they pay for a Sensationals clam. Even with the exchange rate, it would bring it up to $2.40, $2.60-ish, which is still cheaper than what we pay here. So it's definitely worth it. If you haven't tried Sensationals Magic Spell, I highly suggest you do. It's an almost perfect love spell dupe. Almost. What did I say here? It had a 12-foot medium, light to medium scent throw. So very similar to the performance of the Super Tart scent. But this one lasted 22.5 hours, whereas this one only lasted 7.5 hours. And 1 cube, that's still great considering the price point on this. And at the 7.5 hour mark, it shrank to almost nothing. But I left it on for a total of 10 hours and 50 minutes. Even if the first 7.5 hours, it's a banger. With Sensationals, I think that's a win. That's a win in my books, considering the price point. But 1 cube, 10 hours, 50 minutes in total. And at the 10-hour mark, we're talking it was getting down to 2-3 foot throw. So at that point, again, it's done for me. But hey, if you leave it on for even longer than that, Bob's your uncle. I think it's a great buy for what it is. In the number 3 spot, I had the Chevy Witch. This is an all soy based product, so I want to let the Chevy Witch win the love spell melt off, hands down, just based on the fact that this is the most earth friendly product that I did a melt off with. Soy wax is very different though, and admittedly I haven't warmed a lot of just pure soy. This too, to my nose, is the truest love spell dupe out of everything that I melted this week. Smells pretty damn identical to the perfume. Oh, I love this one. Unfortunately, I didn't purchase this myself. Chevy Witch is an Etsy vendor. I'm not sure, again, if she ships to Canada. Some Etsy sellers do, some don't. But you can find the Chevy Witches Wax on Etsy. She doesn't have crazy blends or anything super complex, which sometimes is nice. Sometimes you just want the classic scents. And then if you so choose to blend them on your own, c'est la vie. But this is an amazing product. It lasted a total of 4 hours and 20 minutes. For the first 4 hours, I would say it had a steady 7 to 8 foot throw. Like, it was pretty powerful for soy wax, I'd say. And it was a medium scent. I wouldn't even consider this one light. But it's strange because it disappeared really fast. It wasn't one of those scents where the scent throw shrank. It just straight up disappeared. And then as quickly as it disappeared, I almost got like a burning scent. And now that I think back, because I haven't had much experience just melting straight soy, perhaps I shouldn't have had this in my 24-watt mainstays warmer. Damn it, Sarah. Should have thought that one out better. I do have 2 cubes, so I'm going to test it out a bit. I think soy wax would have probably done better in a lower wattage warmer, but it's too late now. It is what it is. So this one was in the number 3 spot. I want to give her a giant high five for being earth friendly though, man. Like, that's amazing. To create a product that throws that well, medium scent throw, super authentic with soy wax, which is one of the hardest waxes to work with or to make scented products out of. I think this wax is awesome. Unfortunately, in the last spot is Scentsy's Lucky in Love. It is unmistakably a love spell dupe, for sure. It's definitely a love spell dupe, but in true Scentsy fashion, they put their own twist on it, which I love. To my nose anyways, I get more white jasmine, which makes it like love spell, which is already like a really romantic scent. But Scentsy's version of it, I don't know, because of that white jasmine, I just think it's even more romantic because it's a little bit more floral than fruit, to my nose anyways. So super bummed that it didn't perform as well as I had anticipated in my house. Somebody recently said to me, when you first started Scent Scores and Wax Wars, you only ever used 1 cube. And recently that has changed. It has. I tend to be melting 2 cubes, and I refuse to go more than 2 cubes, but I tend to be melting 2 cubes more often than not because the scents are so light. And if I just put 1 cube in and can't smell it, it doesn't make for very good scent scores or wax scores, right? So with this melt off, I did try with 1 cube of Lucky in Love, but it was so light I could hardly detect it at all unless I was standing right over top of it. So I put 2 cubes in, and I got a 4-foot throw for the first 2 hours and a 2-foot throw for the last 2.5 hours. So it lasted a little bit longer than the Shabby Witch product by what, 10 minutes? But the Shabby Witch threw a lot longer, and it was a medium scent versus Scentsy's Lucky in Love. Even when I did put 2 cubes in and got a bit of a throw out of it, it was very, very, very light. So unfortunately, that's a bummer. I do have a couple cubes left in my Scentsy clamshell, and I love the scent. Like, it is awesome. If you don't mind having to put 3, 4, 5 cubes in, power to you, because Scentsy's version of Lucky in Love is really, really nice. Or sorry, Scentsy's Lucky in Love, which is a love spell dupe, is really, really nice. But to me, it was just way too light on performance. And again, need I remind you that this is how this wax performs in my space. It could totally be different in your space. I hope you have better luck with Scentsy's Lucky in Love because it is phenomenal on scent. Performance, it was a bit of a flop for me. But if you're not into Scentsy, then check out some of the other products I named in this video. They were all really good on scent. Thanks for watching. Sorry about the cancerous dog rant, but c'est la vie. It's Wax Wars and Dollhouse update all in one. Bye for now.